Hello. Do you believe in free will? Do you believe that we actually have free will? A lot of people, very often quite clever people, will say, well, I think we have some free will. Now we can all agree that there are certain things over which we have no control whatsoever, and no amount of free will make any difference. Things like who our parents were and how we were brought up and what sort of basic characters we have. And whether or not we're going to get certain illnesses, we have no control over things like that. But at the other end of the scale, whether we have what we have for lunch or what we wear tomorrow, most people would say, well, yeah, of course I've got complete free will. It's entirely up to me. I will choose. And so the problem then becomes that between having no free will whatsoever and having total free will, at what point does the universe hand over to us? What points does the universe say, well, okay, I'm making all these important decisions over which you'll have no control whatsoever, but you can use your free will to decide on these other minor matters. Doesn't really make any sense. Now, if you take something very simple, such as someone says to you, would you like a cup of tea or a cup of coffee? And you'll answer almost immediately with whatever you think is going to give you greatest pleasure at that particular time. And you would say, well, I've used my free will and I've made a choice. But what has actually happened is that the question has arrived in your brain, and your brain immediately will have accessed memory of tea and memory of coffee. It will have stored probably some preference or other. It will also very likely take into account the current state of your body, and if you're thirsty, it'll figure out that it's probably tea would be better for you, or if you're feeling a bit tired, it might choose coffee. And it will perform a calculation, a computation, and that is what you will voice, and that'll be your answer. And you'll believe that you've used free will. Not your brain. You should chose yourself. And if, for example, someone said to you, well, would you like a drink of Zig or a drink of Zog? You're not going to be able to answer, because your brain has no knowledge of what Zig is, no knowledge of what Zog is. Never heard of them. So it can't. No matter free will enable it to make to compute an answer, a response. And if you accept that your brain is really a biological computer, that your character, your consciousness, everything, your experiences, everything is your brain, that is you. Imagine taking an electronic computer, one that has no data on it whatsoever. Good memory, a good processor, and so on. And you key into it, what's the best way from London to Leeds? You're not going to get an answer. It's not going to respond. It doesn't know what London is. Doesn't know what Leeds is. If, on the other hand, you then you enter maps and various routes available, and you then provide details of weather conditions and access to reports of roadworks and so on, and you then key in and say which is the best way from London to Leeds, it will give you an answer at once. It'll tell you the best route. But it's computing that. It is not making a choice. It's not exercising any free will. Just the same as with the tea and coffee example. It'll use stored information plus current circumstances in order to compute an answer. But it's not using free will. And the same applies to every decision we ever make. Everything is a computation. And whilst we think we're in control, it's beyond our control. We like to believe that there's a little me, a little man inside our brains that just uses our brains to help us make choices. But what we call choice is really just the brain doing what it does, processing information. Free will is an illusion. It's a comforting one. Maybe it's even a necessary one. It doesn't really matter that we don't have any free will, but it is an illusion. Anyway, that's what I think about it. If you've watched this far, thank you very much indeed. This is a new channel, and I want to talk about a lot of different subjects like this, sort of subjects where there's no sort of definitive answer one way or the other. And if you're interested, if you wouldn't mind subscribing and perhaps ringing the bell, I'd be very grateful, and I'd also be very happy to receive any comments, any thoughts you might have. So until next time, thank you for watching, and bye for now.